All right, all right, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reefing Report Mother's Day edition. Mark, what is going on?
Yo, Reefing Report people. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday night Mother's Day. What's up? Got to give a shout out to Rico, the hat inspiration.
There
Of
you
course,
go.
my boss, K Brown from saltwateraquarium.com. He's always the hat backwards guy. Even, I got to give him a little bit of hard time here. His daughter went to prom
Oh, this is
week,
right. Yes.
and he had
I saw that.
his hat on backwards with
I
the
know.
picture with her. I'm like, dude, like, this is your daughter going to prom. Like, come on, take off the hat.
She's all dressed, to the nines. And here is Ken, Mr. saltwateraquarium.com, with his saltwateraquarium hat on, emblazoned right across in reverse. I'm like,
And a hoodie. I'm like, dude,
come on, man.
Up. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, this is Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank over there, bringing you the Reefing Report with me, Terrence. Just Terrence, no Saltwater Tank moniker or anything. I guess, the foo, at the foo. So there you go.
But is it with I guess it's with me, Terrence, right? You're a grammar guy. So,
yes.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it with that. Shout out to all the lady reefers, especially all the mother lady reefers out there.
Yes. I saw my mom today. I went over and visited her, and and that was really cool. I really enjoyed visiting with her, and obviously she's got some years on her now, and she's not the woman she once was, and I'm certainly not the kid I once was, but there is evidence of a Terrence from time before. So that is myself, my mother, and my grandmother, probably in 1977 or something like that, 76.
Yeah. I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, we didn't need to mention that. But check out my mom's sweet light blue blazer. Check out my turtleneck with the puka shells. I mean, styling, completely styling, right?
Could be a 90s with the turtleneck, and you're like,
yeah, no, that's me. It was my, it was my Steve Jobs before Steve Jobs was the thing, So there you go.
So Steve Jobs stole it from you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that woman right there. There's two women in my life, her and my my darling wife Nancy, who are responsible for anything great in my life. Is pretty much dedicated to them. So shout out to my mom, Judy. For all of that. So thank you for that. And let's see. Mark sent me over something because I required him to. Let's see if I can bring it in correctly here.
The shame for not
doing
it's
so big. It's so big. That's okay. That's okay. We can make it work. Look at that. Okay. That is great. So there's Mark. How old were you there, Mark?
That was 15 years ago. So 28?
Wow. And your beautiful mother there. What's her name?
Helen.
And everything great from Mark, I can assure you, comes from her, even though I don't know her, but I know Mark. So, there you go. Shout out to Helen.
Shout out to the moms, to both mothers who have done more than we ever know, and more than we could probably ever give ourselves.
100%.
So thank you for everyone out there. And thanks for the moms for, if your husband is allowed to watch the Reefing Report tonight, instead of doing some Mother's Day activity. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're on East Coast, you should have already got that done. And please, I'm going to mention it, and somebody's going to screw it up for me, but we're going to see how good our audience is. I have recorded the F1 race today. I have not had a chance to see it yet, so no one mention anything F1 in the entire stream, please. Okay?
That's like telling a kid not to play with fire. They're like,
nothing.
Okay.
We're going to see how good our viewers are. If they're going to help me out with that, let me see it in peace, okay? And let me find out who won the race and how it went, all on my own. And then we will ban to the bowels of hell anybody who rats it out and and is a spoiler for me, because I want to see this race. So that's what's going on in the rest of our lives. And Billy D says, what about the Derby? And I would say, unless you had money on that horse, who cares?
Dude, 80-1.
Yes.
Broke from the outside. That was, but if you watched it, I watched it. I was outside smoking some meat. I was actually making chicken wings. But anyway, I was watching the thing, and I'm like, the first two, you're like, okay, it's going to be one of these. And all of a sudden you're like if you look closely, the guy, they round the home stretch, and you watch the jockey, for any horse people out there, like pulls his reins way to the side. He's got to guide this horse so far over to get around someone. Then it's just like, kaboom. I was like, Holy cow. It was
The only thing
awesome.
I know about jockeys is Mickey Rooney. That's it. Anything I learned from Mickey Rooney. See, you don't even know that reference. National Velvet. Come on. Oh my gosh. This is a
Dude, I
sad
grew up
time.
on my mother.
If
Speaking of
if
mothers,
if our show relied intently on the pop culture references, we would fail. So we better get to fish and corals and things like that, Mark.
pop culture references from 40 years ago.
It doesn't matter. It was way before my birth too.
Oh, okay.
So
All right. Well, with that,
it's
we'll
National
quit yip
Velvet.
yapping. I don't know. I mean, I was allowed to watch the Golden Girls going up. That's my
I know you
mother's
told
input
us.
for you. There you go. So, all right. Oh, sorry for Jay. Jay says, don't say velvet. I'm
Oh,
battling marine
sad
velvet.
times. Ooh,
Sorry
that's
for you,
the
buddy.
worst,
Look,
man.
here's the thing about marine velvet. It's not good. It's way worse than Nick. And the only good thing that can come out of marine velvet, well, two good things. One is if you didn't quarantine, you start. Two, that happened to me. Speak from experience. Two, if you see it, then you know what happened, because a lot of times you don't even see marine velvet. All your fish just die, and you're like, what happened?
Right.
So sorry for you, buddy. I bet some fish are going to live. Pull them out, quarantine them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the upside might be none of the fish live, and then your tank goes fallow, and then you don't have to worry about it again.
I mean, there's a give and take. Like, some fish might live, but you're never going to get those fish out of your tank. Therefore, the disease is going to live on. In a way, it's better that everything does perish. That way, the tank is fallow, and you can, per se, start over. Sorry, Jay. Hope you get through that.
Yeah, man. Sorry about that. For sure. All right. So first of all, let's give a shout out to all of our followers. Thank you so much. All of our Patreon supporters, thank you so much. I'm back at home now. I'm going to do a couple of live streams to our Patreon people on our Facebook group, probably over the next week. I've got stuff going on the tank. I thought I might, share some of the stuff that's going on, and we really appreciate that. And what's our sub count right now? Are we getting close to 1,000, Mark?
I don't know. Let me go look. I all of a sudden got caught up. And
I'll sip some Angel's Envy in a maple old fashioned that I made. So while you do that.
Maple old fashioned?
Yes. No Aunt Jemima, real maple syrup, orange, bitters, and some Angel's Envy special edition.
Canada,
what?
Did you get it from Canada? It's not real maple
syrup. It's Vermont.
Syrup
Vermont maple syrup.
Okay,
so Billy D says 913. So, hey, by next weekend, let's get that up there. You guys help us out. Do some shares out there on Facebook and all the social media, and give us some help. Get us up to 1,000 on the subs. Being it's mostly a live stream channel, we don't get the coverage and the algorithm help that a lot of the other video stuff does. So we need your help to get those subs up there. Before next weekend. Let's see if we can get this to 1,000 and we can all celebrate together. So
if you believe it, you can achieve it.
Yes. Let's put it here. I've been watching that show about WeWork. That's an interesting thing. The WeWork phenomenon. Yeah, We Crashing, it's called. For those of you out there who want to see a good show. Anyway, comments from last week. Did you read the comments on the?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like last week. It felt like kind of the Mr. Saltwater Tank show, and Terrence was along for the ride, and kind of like there's a little bit of grumpy Terrence was along for the ride, but the comments seemed to the opposite. I don't know if maybe our perception.
I don't know what show they were watching, to be honest with you, because last week I was when we closed down the show, I was really happy that you were super engaged. It looked like you had some Red Bull before the show, which was great. And I kind of let you roll with a number of topics. But again, it was like Terrence is just dominating the show. You need to step back and do that New Year's resolution. Terrence, thank you.
Big word.
Yes. And also that we are too negative. And last week's show, I went back and kind of zipped through it, and there was a good amount of negativity in last week's show, but the week before, after wrap, it was nothing but positivity, like all positivity. So I think that's the way it's going to go, Mark. I mean, we're going to have shows where there's positive stuff, and we're talking, we love products and whatnot, and there's going to be shows where we're like, me or you are going to be like, what?
I mean, that's what part of makes the show work, is we're not going to get here every week and be like, oh, wow, this is great. We like this product. We love this product too. Thank you. It's like sometimes we're going to be like, what? And look, I have no sponsors for Mr. Saltwater Tank TV, so it's not like I got to keep somebody happy.
Right.
So if I'm like, look, I'm like, well, I could say that, but I'm not going to because then they might drop a sponsorship. Don't have that problem. Not so.
Right. Yeah, this is a news and opinion show. So we're going to be bringing you news, and we're going to give you our opinions on it. And when something's great, I'm the first guy to shout it from the rooftops because I love great products and great things. But when something isn't reaching the bar, you're going to get the honest opinion here. And I think that's what makes us different, Mark, is that you're not going to just ignore everything that you don't like and only talk about the things that you do like.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we don't like,
okay,
let's just say we not necessarily that we don't like. Maybe that's not quite the right term, but there's another aberrant fish this week that we were both like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean,
So let's go.
In the past, you've liked them. I haven't liked them, or the other way around.
Other way around, I think, for the most part. Let's pull this up. Okay, there's the reefing report. So it seems like every week there's a new aberrant fish. And what's so funny is they seem to always go on Reef Builders. Reef Builders has this penchant for aberrant fish. It's gone on for a long time. Whenever there's a fish that comes up that's kind of weird, piebald, whatever, or a weird tail on a clownfish, or whatever it may be, they tend to come to Reef Builders. And lately, every week there's a new one, and now there's a new Desjardins, which is a sailfin tang, right? That this thing is ugly, okay? I don't see, if anybody sees this and wants this in their tank, I can't understand it. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, this one I'm like, is this like Michael Jackson? It didn't he went to the middle, whoever, yeah. No. And
wait a second. Was that a Michael Jackson reference to? Okay, now you're in Will Smith territory here, buddy. Okay, talking about somebody's medical condition and comparing it to an aberrant fish. I am calling you out now. The cancel culture police are going to be on Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank here. All the lovers, of Michael Jackson in the moonwalk are going to be here on, like protesting, dude. So
I gotta say, I watched that because when he did the original moonwalk, I was too young. Like I was alive, but I missed it. Right? It was not something I would watch. But I went back and watched it, and you're like, damn, that dude had talent. And that being said, I look at this and I'm like, this ain't it. I mean, and speaking of Reef Builders always getting the pictures of the aberrant tangs, did you notice that there's no watermark on this one? And he didn't say where. It said where in the world it was collected, but it didn't say which collector.
Yeah, I know. So definitely that's an interesting point as well. I mean, we've talked about that last week or the week before, but it says an importer in Miami. The supplier told Reef Builders it has received an offer from an importer in Miami. So I don't know. Maybe somebody down there is going to find out where it came from, but I just can't. Again, I guess for the guy who has everything, I don't get it.
But look at this. What's going on right underneath its gill plate? There's some flesh, and then it looks like it's a cut, or something.
Yeah, I see it right there. Yeah, it's right below the gill plate there.
So okay, Terrence. So let's speaking of being positive.
Okay.
Look at this fish. What would have to change, like a color or different? What would change? What would need to change in this fish to make you go, oh, I would like to have that fish?
So first of all, for me, right, from a positivity standpoint here, I'm colorblind. To me, I'm going to explain to you what the colors look like to me, and you tell me whether or not I'm on point or not with the colors to begin with, right? So what I see in this fish is a dirty white color, kind of a charcoal gray color, kind of a rust color on it, and kind of a little bit of a dirty yellow-orange color on it. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So those are horrible colors. So for me, yes, if you basically were to take and maybe if you were to make it with a yellow dorsal fin and a white anal fin and bright white pectoral fins and some yellow on the tail, now I might be interested in the fish, right? Because it's now got some bright colors in it, but
Yeah.
not like this.
No.
So
Yeah, I mean, even a little bit of like it needs like master scully treatment, right? Like there are these scullies that are okay, but then there's like one little streak of white, and instantly they're like master scully,
yeah,
like alert kind of thing. So this needs some bright colors in it, even if it had like like I don't know, brown that was like oversaturated brown, like brown, not muted brown. Like that would do something for it too.
we certainly have discussed enough about ugly fish. So can we move on from the
But
ugly
I mean,
fish?
did you notice people in the comments are agreeing? I don't think anyone has said they
Yeah, I
like
don't
it.
see one person that said, "Oh my God, I'd want this for my tank. If it was even $1,000, I would pay that for it." I that's not going to happen. It's only the person who can, in my opinion, say, "Hey, I have a fish that nobody else can have," and that's it. That's all there
Which
is.
hey, some people will pay for that.
Yep.
And for some places like Worldwide Corals with Casper, like that's borderline their branding, right? Like
Oh,
you
it certainly
you
is.
look at
Yes.
Casper and you if you know anything in the reefing world, you'll be like, oh, Worldwide Corals.
Yes. Okay. So Jameson Brasal says I would pay $1,000. So Miami importer, if you can import that for $350, you now have a buyer at $1,000, and you can make your profit.
Oil slick. Farmed Frag says oil slick.
Yes, I know. I saw that too.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Positivity, Mark.
So,
Positivity. We got to keep it positive,
well,
man.
no, okay. I'm not even going to go there.
The
All right,
next
no one likes
topic
this
is positive, though.
which one do you want to go to there, buddy?
Let's
Someone
go to
leaving the
talk
hobby?
about that we now have a person leaving the hobby. That's kind of a sad day, right? Which is Suncrest Reef, who is his name's John Halsey. He has been around the apex world for a long, long time. He wrote all of the kind of the how-to guides or the tutorial guides out there for the apex, and he is taking down his tank, and that's going to be it for him for now in the hobby, and we have to say goodbye to him. So I wanted to give a shout out to him because he has helped so many people. He's been out on the group for a long time, and obviously back when I was at Neptune, and helped so many people all hours of the day with their apex woes, which certainly helps out Neptune, but definitely helps out the community without pay. And so shout out to John Halsey, Suncrest Reef. Thank you so much for your help, and I hope you find what you're going to do in retirement now that you've sold your company. So good luck.
Maybe he'll get an RV and roll around the country and make reefing videos.
Somebody's got to do that.
Someone's got to do it.
There's a need out there for that. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, that's the case. It's we've got good people in the house today. Look at that. We've got Poor Man's Reef in the house. We've got Jay in the house. So definitely going to be a good show. We've got a number of people. Yeah, the count tonight's a little bit weak. So any of you guys want to help us out before we get to the good and juicy stuff, get those numbers up. We'd appreciate a good share while we're going live here. That would help out. Would love it.
I mean, you got it. It says something about the man's reach when someone who is watching the Reefing Report says he personally helped me. It wasn't like, oh, I've read his stuff. Like he interacted one-on-one with me. It's like, wow, that's a lot of reach.
Yes, and there's more than one. I mean, Antonio from Vivid Creative says he helps us with our unique tidal flow programming for our office tank. So John Halsey is a legend. He's a sage in the Apex world, and he will be missed in terms of helping people. I mean, my opinion, I don't know that he will stay away. I think he might still just, once in a while pop in on somebody. That's my opinion. Usually people like that can't sit by the sidelines. They just can't, and watch somebody flounder, right? They jump in usually, but we'll see.
But does that mean he's going to get another tank?
I don't know about that, but he has knowledge regardless, and I think he'll continue to share that knowledge at his leisure, but not as not as frequently as he does now. But that's my guess.
Well, enjoy retirement. Thanks for what you've contributed to the community at whatever level it is. It's really cool, and you never know what's next.
Yeah, for sure.
You can always come back. See, Farm Frag said it. He's like, they always come back. Like you can't stay away. This is like it's an addiction, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to stop, and then you're like, I'm done.
The good ones always come back, right? That's for
But
sure.
maybe just one hit, and then I'm done. Okay, then one more hit, and then I'm done.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, do I have a? Oh, okay. So, next topic is out there. A big thing that's happening lately is there is a new option for your Trident reagent that we've kind of talked about. That there's been a DIY solution, no pun intended, and yeah, I mean it's a it's a thing that somebody has come out with new juice for your Trident.
Well, and we talked about this a while ago on the Reefing report because he showed you how to make the alkalinity section of it,
Correct.
which looked fairly intense for you DIYers out there. Maybe like, great, let's do it. And now, as we were looking at this before the broadcast, the price recently dropped, and now it's half the price of
It's
the
pretty crazy. I
Neptune
mean,
stuff.
it's pretty crazy. It's ABC reagents, and I can't vouch for these guys in terms of the the quality or how they're going to work or all of that. I do know that this is something that clearly anybody making a product whose income stream also relies on a a juice or something, right? If you have Swifters, right? So you have Swifters in your house, for cleaning stuff like the dusters and the things for your floors and stuff like that. Well, you can buy like the starter pack, and then you got to buy the little things afterward, right? Over and over and over again until the end of time. Well, that product is really, or razors and razor blades or whatever it happens to be. It's based around you resupplying it. So coming out with a, with a replacement reagent is an interesting thing. So I don't know if it works. I don't know of anybody that's using it yet. I can tell you that it probably took a lot of work to come up with this. And I can tell you without revealing much at all that there's a lot of work that goes into making this stuff, consistent as possible and testing and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Right? Poor Man's Reef obviously says he's using it now. Poor Man's Reef is out there. He's pretty prolific out there in the Instagram world, working with this stuff. And, he's been, involved with these ABC reagents people. But $59 for a 6-month reagent supply is pretty darn cheap comparatively. Even on sale, that's going to cost you like $95 or something like that. From Bulk Reef Supply or what have you. So now, I mean, before it was like $75 or $79. That's probably not the threshold, right? Where people are like, right? But you would probably consider this, wouldn't you, for clients?
I'm trying to find where I can buy it. I was actually going to go order it and give it a whirl.
abcreagents.com, evidently.
I know, that's what I was. You Google ABC reagents, you get all kinds of weird stuff.
Sure.
So,
but it's just
anyway,
that,
here we go. I got it.
But
so,
anyway,
yeah, I'll buy some up. I'll give it a whirl.
Now, here's the thing, right? Is that any company that does these kinds of things, that they basically, I'm talking about that builds the product, the Swiffer product, let's say, right? And let's say somebody copies the Swiffer mop style and offers a third-party Swiffer generic mop at 1/2 or 1/3 the cost that snaps into it. Well, what ends up happening at some point is Swiffer changes their mop design, and now the company that's making the other ones has to make 2 designs or 3 designs, right? And so it's quite possible that Neptune Systems might change the electronic formulation or the way that they read things or what have you that make this not work. And then they would have to create a new formulation, right, to work, and even maybe a keying system, right, or a batching system by which you put a number into your Neptune system to coordinate with the particular batch that you get from Neptune Systems in order that it's most accurate. So it's not impossible that Neptune Systems could throw a monkey wrench into this scheme of theirs and make it so that but then you have the possibility of pissing off a whole contingent of people who would like to get cheaper reagents, right? And so, man, it's a conundrum, no doubt.
But okay, so what do you think the chances of Neptune systems paying attention, feeling threatened by it enough to actually do that?
Not at all until the volume starts to have an effect, right? Nobody's going to worry about anything, in my opinion, until I mean, if it's pulling 1% of the business or 2% of the business, it'd be like, whatever, I don't care, right? If it's pulling 30% of the business or 20% of the business at some point, that's where I would end up caring. And so it remains to be seen whether or not there's going to be any kind of traction with the product that would create them to have any kind of worry. I mean, what we often don't really comprehend in this hobby is people like you, me, and the people on the stream are a very small percentage of the overall hobby volume. And so if everybody on this stream was to go use ABC, the ones that have Tridents, use the ABC reagents, that would be 100% of our audience, right? And it might amount to 2% or 1% or 0.5%, or probably more likely 1/10 or even 1/100th of 1% of the entire reagent audience. So it's one of those kinds of things.
So a lot of people in this stream are jumping in, commenting, and saying that, well, then the answer is that Neptune then just lowers their price.
Yeah, it's quite possible that might happen. The difference is that when you have a product that's sold direct to consumer, well, now you have that whole range of money that the company who they have to make profit, and then they have to sell it through a channel to make the channel profit. You have all of that as well. So it's a little less likely, right? I would assume, probably if he's selling it for $59, that it's, he's still got room in that, and that price is really created that he can maximize his profit, right? And still even go lower than 59 and still possibly make a profit. So it's hard to say. And with all of these things, you're going to be taking a risk, right? Because this is not the official stuff. And if it works, that's great. But maybe the next batch you get from them doesn't work. I'm not saying it will or it won't. I can't know.
There's only one way to find out.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, if you get a discount basically at the right time to buy your Neptune reagents, the reality is it's $15 a month, right? So $15-16 a month versus
So then the
$11 a month or $12,
as someone was saying, it's not worth the risk. Like, yeah, even if you don't spend a lot of money on our reefs, which I'm willing to bet most people on this stream put a fair amount of coin and certainly effort into their reefs, right? Is it worth? I mean, $15 doesn't even get you probably a Xenia frag these days, but let's say it does. Is it worth a frag of pulsing Xenia for everything you have going on in your tank, assuming that it's going to get thrown off by a bad Trident reading because you use this other reagent and then you had to cascading of events after that?
Who knows? And the real this is the stuff that kind of like ticks me off more, right? Is this comment from Poor Man's Reef? All this should tell is how much money Neptune makes off these reagents. Those damn companies are making profits off of us. And it's like, yeah, of course they're making profit, but do you know how much work it takes just to invent this stuff to begin with? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to put people in place and to produce it. And then you still have not just Neptune Systems, but you have the stores who are making their cut on it as well, and support and everything else that goes into it. So if you are anti-profit, then absolutely take that approach, right? If you want to come in and start dictating to companies what profit they should take, that's not American.
I think Russia will take you if you want to do
that. If you don't want to use the product, don't use the product.
Well, and they employ people, which in case, I mean, everyone is like, you should buy it from China. It's like, well, they're making money. Like, okay, so are you willing to take a pay cut? Like, I thought you wanted lots of good benefits, lots of good pay.
Again, I'm going to get very, now I'm getting, sorry, Mark, I'm now interrupting you, but this Poor Man's Reef guy, none of this was invented by Neptune. Dude, you don't know anything, okay? You know zero, okay, in terms of what was invented by whom, when, or how, okay? I do, because I was there, okay? So you have no idea the amount of work that it takes to do this stuff. So if you want to talk about what it takes or who did what or how, okay, there are a number of people involved in making this work, okay? As much as I love people like Jim Welsh, okay, he was critical in making this happen. And yes, worked with Neptune Systems to make it happen, but he is one piece of the entire puzzle. So anybody who says that Neptune Systems did not invent this or did not, create this or whatever, they don't know what they're talking about. It's as simple as that.
It's one thing to create it. It's another thing to bring it down through the pipeline, which, from what I remember, there's some bumps on the road along there that you guys worked through.
Lots of them. And it might sound funny because here's a guy who's not working for Neptune Systems anymore defending Neptune Systems, right? But this is the way companies work. It's fine. If you don't want to buy the thing, don't buy it. And it was completely transparent up front what your cost was going to be, your ongoing cost. And if you don't want to take that ongoing cost, then you shouldn't complain about the ongoing cost. You should move on to another product or don't use it at all.
I don't complain about the price of Ferraris. I'm like, I can't afford it. Even if I could, maybe not. Okay.
Or how about just the cost of a car versus a bicycle or whatever? I mean, come on. It's just the way it goes. Okay. So so here's Brymac saying, so much for a positive stream. This is very positive. This is pro company. Okay. Because companies need to make money in order to bring new things to the market and bring things to the market for this business. And that requires companies to make a profit or they don't want to do it. That's the positivity.
How many people would work for free enough to push through a product? Probably not many. If you will, put your resume up there because there's probably someone who would love to have you.
Yeah, and there's so much good stuff here, Mark. I mean, on this stream, I love that we're getting these comments, right? More competition provides lower cost. Absolutely. But guess what? The market's not that big. So you're not going to get that much competition in a small market. That's just the way it is, right? Adam Moore, what do you think about this comment? The market will dictate the correct price whether Neptune likes it or not. Go for it.
Isn't that what it is about? Like the market, it will, if enough, like you said, if enough people are attracted to it, the Neptune will notice and the Neptune will make a choice. They'll do something. Maybe they lower the price. Maybe they do something else. Like that's why there's $200 LED lights and there's 1,000 LED lights. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a place for everybody. And one of those places is not to do reefing at all either. I mean, that's also another way it is, it just, I get tired, whatever company it is, of like, they're taking my money, they're fleecing me. Nobody's lining up to like handcuff you and take you in and make you buy these products. I mean, you have an option not to buy them. Right?
Easy.
And I love this too. Rosano says it's good to have some debate on the stream. I agree 100%. Bring it. That's
part of what we're here to do.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So I appreciate that somebody has come out with these reagents. I like that the free market exists. I do believe that it may be a slightly bumpy road, both for them producing them in terms of a product that you sell to people, as well as what the response from Neptune Systems might be. That's all.
And look, in a way, you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a Boston Terrier who's someone. Anyway, on another hand, like, I've got to also celebrate that someone out there took it on themselves to create this thing. We'll see if it's legit or not. Like, someone out there did it. So clearly it's enough market traction out there that someone's like, I'm going to go give this a whirl. And they threw themselves out there. Maybe it worked, maybe it doesn't, but someone did something.
Yeah, there is a huge risk involved, right? I mean, when you start building these things, when Neptune, with me there, started building the Trident stuff, we didn't know if it was going to be a viable commercial product for sure. There's no for sure from the get-go. And there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars spent in trying to get it ready for market and go to market, et cetera.
There's one sure thing, at least. Someone's going to say it's too expensive, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
No matter what it costs. There you go.
Oh, yeah. So we have some people in the stream here who, Mark, I am sure, okay, because they are active in the stream, and they've come to the stream because I posted a link for sure this week. That's why they're here. Yes, regarding
What?
this drama that exists out there
Oh,
in the reefing world with another lighting product, which is
yeah,
the Quanta bar, which we discussed before, right?
yeah,
The Quanta bar is out there. Let's see here. Let's go to here. It is right here. The Quanta Pro light bar, which looks a little bit similar, interestingly enough, as some of the stuff from Orfec, right? And it's out there by a reefer who's brought this in clearly from from overseas, from China. There's no mystery there, but it has created some interesting drama out there in the industry, to say the least, right? Because a lot of these products can be bought overseas. And there are people out on the internet who have made their internet fame, so to speak, around cutting out the middleman, right? Which is like, Jim Graham, Telegram's channel, right, is certainly one of those. There's Poor Man's Reef right there. And the interesting part is that there's this whole we got to cut out the middleman. How do we cut out the middleman? Which is great. There's certainly a budget reefer world out there that exists and should exist. But there also has, popped up basically Luca basically from Mahina Corals creates the Quanta bar. And it's ruffled some people's feathers because he basically is marketing and selling these LED lights that he has commissioned out of China. And there's a particular individual, Jay Moran, who thinks that he should be more forthright, and he's not giving the right information out there. So if you go out on Reefing Report right now, you can go and see a video that's out there where he talks about, I'll just skip around, kind of what he says are not true facts around the light and whatnot. Frankly, personally, I don't really care. Okay. The lights all kind of work. They all provide light. They all provide light across spectrums. A lot of people are niggling around on whether or not, it's to the left 5 nanometers, to the right 5 I really don't care. I think that the real question here for people that he did not answer yet, even in his video, and I discussed this offline with him in DMs and whatnot, is if somebody wants to buy from this company that sells them overseas, the light bars, can they buy them themselves? And if so, can they buy them exactly like the ones from Mahina Corals? And if so, at what price? And nobody's yet been able to say exactly that and establish the reef tax, right? That Mahina Corals, Luca, is actually getting as a profit, which is fine. I have no problem with profit on this, but it's just created all of this drama. And what's funny is that he goes through and makes all of these funny pictures as part of the reef drama, okay? That, if nothing else, it is humorous because Jay has made them of me before with the Neptune stuff. And, I laugh, and then, and then Jim goes out and reposts them. And I kind of think if all these guys got together at like a Reefapalooza, they'd just all be having a beer and shooting the shit and having a great time. But it is funny reefing drama, okay? For sure.
This is much better, different in drama than a salt potentially crashing tanks or causing corals to die. And someone's doing something. That's doing whatever, stirring the pot, putting themselves out there enough that someone else notices and feels like they have to do something about it. Like, in a way, like all of a sudden, like, you're getting noticed. That's a good thing, whether it's a good thing about what they say you're doing or not. Like, you've got enough clout, or you made someone mad enough that all of a sudden people are paying attention.
Now, I will say that, and I didn't mean to if I did before, I aligned, Jim Graham directly with Luca's company, saying that these two guys were together. Now, in fact, Jim does like Luca's product quite a bit. I will say that it's interesting to me that, unlike other products, including the Sky and others that he tore apart and basically, other companies' products said you can go buy these yourself out of China, He has not yet given the recipe for Luca's lights on how to go buy them in China. And to be fair, neither has Jay. And I told Jay that directly, that if anybody wants to kind of know what the reef tax is, they should tear apart Luca's thing, get exactly what the spectrum is of all of the different LEDs and what types they are. Ask, Herify to build them, because the enclosures and everything else are pretty much the same, right? See what it costs and see whether or not it's worthwhile to have Luca bring them in, and you buy them from Luca with his, warranty and whatever he does and his profit margin that he makes, which I am fine with personally, and see it's worthwhile, or decide that, you know what, the $62 that I can save, or whatever it ends up being, out of China, I want to buy it directly out of China. Now, given everything else that Jim Graham has done, I would expect Jim to kind of try to do that. And you might have to buy 20 or 40 of them from them. I don't know. But nobody has done that yet. So kudos to Luca for bringing the lights in and whatnot. And, somebody wants to say anything, that's the level I think they need to get to.
Somebody came out and said that. That's pretty deep level sleuthing on the internet, doing the work, putting the work in on that. I mean, you got to be proud if they really went and do that effort and did it.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting which LEDs in there isn't super difficult to do, and my opinion is that the Herify guys would be able to order them, because China is like that anyway. They're not going to be. Look, it's just if Luca bought 40 bars at a time, if I told them that I wanted 20, they might take it. But certainly, if I told them I want 45 bars, they would sell him out in an instant, because that's China. Okay, that's just the way it goes. They're not going to have any loyalty to anybody. But anyway, the video's out there. It's linked off the site if anybody wants to see it. It's I watched it at 2x or 1.5x, and But maybe Jay's going to come back with some more info, or somebody else will, and find out what it'll really cost you to get the exact Luca Quanta bar direct from China.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We'll find out. All right.
So in the next reefing report.
We have.
There you go.
Love it. It's been a couple episodes, Terrence, since you used your sound effects. I'm glad that you're feeling comfortable. Well,
there you go. Road. Well, I'm at home, so I've got the board. I don't have the board when I'm away from home. Okay.
You've been on the road. Now you're home. But
yeah, so I don't even know what some. You see, there's the rim shot. There.
Oh, the board gosh. Probably made in China, but anyway, we digress. Speaking of,
for sure,
let's switch. Speaking of LEDs, let's go to the way opposite end of the spectrum. Since we're talking lighting, we'll use a lighting reference.
You want to go to ETM, but wait a sec. Before we get there,
okay.
Let's talk about the MP120. Have you heard of the MP120?
No, I mean, I looked at it and thought they were talking about my reference in the video about the Abyss reef cannon.
Look at this. This is the MP120. So, Mark, you're a boat guy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know what thrusters are on a boat?
Absolutely.
On a boat, Mark. On a boat. Okay?
Yes. Yes, Terrence. I'm familiar with those.
Yes. So somebody had the excellent idea to take boat thrusters and adapt them to fit them into your reef tank, okay? And there's a thread out there. You can link to it on the reefingreport.com about this person putting them in their tank. There you can see a video of one in his tank. He made a magnetic mount for it and everything with a 3D print and a cage over the front. And It's all really, really cool. Let's see if I can find another picture here. Oh, that's the reef cannon, so you know what that one is.
I was going to say. Yeah.
But the reef cannon's like $2,500 or something, right? This, look at that. Look at that.
Let's go someone's.
Dude, it is wicked, okay? So I want somebody, hey, Antonio, you're out there, bro. Make me the cage and the magnetic mount, and I'll buy the gear. I want to stick this thing in my tank. So let's make that a mission to make it happen.
This looks more like an oversized Nero than it looks like an MP to me.
Yeah, I don't care because it's got some serious thrust. I mean, serious. Moves some serious water in your tank. And you can do it for like $400 or $500. And it's probably like 3 times the power of an MP60.
Well, that's good because no one's making money on it, and that would be bad.
There you go. So it looks like a fun DIY project for me. Any of the rest of our listeners want to go do that, let me know how it goes for sure. And he says, is this a new... Actually, Burnt Squirrel, this is the Bass-O-Matic, okay? This is the new Bass-O-Matic. I know, Mark, that's a cultural reference that you may not get, okay? But that's Dan Aykroyd early, okay? Saturday Night Live. I know your mom didn't let you watch it, but you can go Google it, okay?
I could watch Saturday Night Live in 6th grade if I could stay up. I'm not a night person, so I was like, but that was the time of Dana Carvey and, Mike Myers, so that was pretty good times.
Anyway, that is the MP120, or what I'm calling the MP120. You guys should go out and take a look at that, because if you have a big tank or maybe even have a big coral like raceway, I'm thinking that's probably the most economical way to get like 10,000 gallons per hour of flow straight down that raceway and create, kind of a, what do you call that thing? A gyre effect?
Gyre.
Yeah.
G-ray. That one, it looks like the hurricane's blowing through. Everything is in one direction. If you have any soft corals, they're all over here, and then the gyre changes, and then they're all over here. You're like, oh. Anyway.
All right. So we're on to our last topic, Mark. Our last topic.
We're talking about MPs. And I got to ask you, Terrence. So you put this on the Reefing Report homepage. This looks kind of like someone found it through a backhand, but maybe it was leaked intentionally. Because I got to ask, did they take this out of the Terrence Fugazi Neptune Systems playbook, where you're like, oh, we have a new product coming and we're going to accidentally leak something about it, but we're not going to say that? I mean, what do you think?
I think this was a mistake. I think this was an oversight.
Oh, because it was in the firmware. Someone saw it there.
Yes. If it was during Terrence's days at Neptune Systems, it could have been for real, like a way to leak it out there. But given this is Ecotech Marine in the firmware, my opinion is this is probably an oversight.
Come on, Terrence. Dude, you were just like, if I had done it, it wouldn't have been a leak and it would have been okay. But since Ecotech did it, this was a mistake. Like, come on, bro.
Because it's not in their DNA. It's not in their DNA.
Well, I mean, now they play for the same team, so maybe they're like changing.
Okay, I'll let you think that.
I mean, okay, so let me ask you this. Perhaps if they leaked it in another way, instead of finding it kind of back-endish through a firmware update, then it would have been, in your mind, more a legit leak as opposed to this way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what it is. But what I want to get to here, Mark, is I want to get the people, especially because I've got awesome people in here, like Jim Graham is in here, and other people, Ben Johnson. Look at this. Ecotech sex tapes. I love this. Ben Johnson. What a great way to put it. Yes. This is the Kardashian Ecotech reference. I wish I could take credit for this, but this is off of Reef to Reef, and somebody out there on Reef to Reef. Again, you can link on reefingreport.com and find it, where Dark Shadow 1500 lists it out there. This is actually a thread that started back in 2021, where they're talking about the release schedule for the different generations of Ecotech products. And you can see here G2 in January 2012, G3 in January 2014, G4 in 2016. Interestingly enough, huge time difference to 2020 for the G5, which was a dramatic change in the architecture of the light, right, as well. And then they're like, is January 2022 going to be the time frame, right? But the fact is that obviously this is in 2021, and now we're into May of 2022, post buyout of Ecotech Marine, post buyout of Neptune Systems. What is going to be happening? And by the way, Neptune Systems Apex released in mid 2016, so we are up on 8 years. Sorry, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 8. Sorry, 6 years. 6 years. Can I have another one? 6 years on.
I just wanted to see you count on camera. That was good. And I was waiting for you to be like, 4 and a half. Okay.
So, but the point is that 2016 was the last Apex. We're in 2022 is 6 years. Before that, before 2016, it was 2009 when the Apex came out, right? So it's definitely due for a refresh, and we've got the Ecotech G6 coming out, and we've got both these companies under the same roof. What do you think is going to happen, Mark?
Well, I mean, I asked Jay this when I was at Reefapalooza, and I think the writing's on the wall. We've said it before. Now that they are under the same roof, and let's face it, Terrence, now that you're not in the equation anymore, the Ecotech lights have got to start talking natively to the Neptune Systems Apex.
Well, for clarification, it was them who walked away from that when they went to the Bluetooth stuff, okay? That was their own decision to do so. We did not walk away from them at Neptune Systems. But the G6 is definitely coming out. That's evident, in my opinion. You have a 15% off sale in the middle of spring, okay? When that happens, it's one of two reasons. Either a company needs money badly, which should not be the case,
Not the case.
in this situation that we're in now, or you're trying to clear out inventory so that you can move on to the next model, right? That's just the way it is.
If that's true, the Neptune Systems Dose is on sale right now too.
Yes. Okay. So here's the deal, right? If you bring these companies together, and again, I'm 6 months out from being there, so I have no idea post Ecotech. I was not there when the Ecotech was acquired, and I've not been part of any of the discussions of bringing the two companies together or what have you. So that's at least my disclosure on that. But what I can talk about is if I'm a consumer, as I am now, just a regular guy, what would my expectations be in terms of if there's a new Apex and if there's a G6, where do I think things would go? Before I show my hand, Mark, I'm going to go to you, man. I'm going to put you on the spot. And I'm going to say, what would Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, the guy who takes care of the richest people in the world's aquariums, who puts Apexes on everybody's aquarium, what is he expecting out of Neptune Systems and Ecotech Marine now under the same roof?
Okay, so first let me just say, richest people in the world, no. If you want to hear about that, go talk to Dr. Tim at his booth at one of his trade shows and ask about the guy who manages the reef tanks on some sultan's yachts. Okay,
yes, I know about that person because he got Apexes on there. Yes.
Okay, right. Anyway, so that's a cool story. You got to hear about that. That's pretty wild. And the pool and all that. So that being said, what do I think has got to be in it? I think they've got to talk to one another out of the box. I think that's just got to happen. You can control your Ecotech stuff out of the box. The other thing, I think the UI, I know that's a software thing, but I think the user interface has to change. Full disclosure, I have not played with the Hydros product. I have seen it at trade shows. I like some of the things they've done in the software. I think like some of the Apex stuff, like is a switch closed or open? Why can't you change that to wet or dry? Like that kind of stuff's got to change. I understand that's software driven, not hardware driven, but I think that could be part of it. And then, I mean, I'm also kind of like stumped, like what else could you do? I mean, like when Ecotech came out with their return pump, the Vectras, I'm like, oh, why did you do a return pump? Like it's kind of like a pump thing. So I'm up for being dazzled by what Neptune has got to come out with and to make me go, oh, I didn't even think of, why would you, Dad? I wouldn't even think of that. That's great. Or I wouldn't have thought of that, but you got to sell me on this because I don't quite get it.
Okay, so CR 1988 said integration without a special module. So that's more or less what you're saying, right? Is that your expectation would be that any new Apex would basically out of the box be able to talk to any Ecotech current level product, right? Let's just say, or at least one generation back, right? The current Bluetooth standard that they use now for communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm in complete agreement with that. I would be disappointed as an Apex customer or a new Apex customer if under the same roof I bought a new Apex and it required me to have a module to control the Ecotech gear. Because the companies are now under the same roof, then my Apex, basically those ecosystems should be, if they're not one and the same, they should be able to crosstalk, let's just say, right? And specifically the Apex stuff, which is a control environment, more so than the Mobius stuff, should be able to control all of the Ecotech products. That should just be the way it is. It seems straightforward. If there's a new Apex and it doesn't do that, like natively out of the box, I would think it would be a disappointment to customers. 100%.
Yep.
right?
But you think the form factor is gonna change, colors are gonna change, any of that stuff?
I don't know. I mean, of course, I know things that were still happening when I was there, so I clearly can't comment on certain things. But as far as the interoperability, I don't have any experience with that because I wasn't there. So I can tell you that what my expectation would be is that there is complete interoperability between the products that exceeds the level at which it was before Ecotech stepped back from controllability. And that means to me as well, people with the existing Apex should have access to a new module that would allow them to control all of those and not be forced to the new Apex to be able to do it, right? If I was doing the product stuff, which I clearly am not now, I would, I would be pushing for that because I would not want to leave those people behind.
But what about the whole wireless thing? We have a comment here on wireless integration with between the energy bar. Neil is saying this. You think that's going to be a thing? I know you're very much against that when you were there. You think that will
I
now be
don't
integrated?
think that will be a thing in this release. I think that the Ecotech people, and again, this comes from no inside knowledge whatsoever. I think the Ecotech people themselves would be more inclined to do that kind of an implementation if they had a controllable power bar, because that's kind of their thing, right? That's how they do things, is all wireless, right? You can have 3 MP60s and they can be literally smashed up against next to each other, and they're still going to talk to each other wirelessly, right? In terms of, as opposed to having just a jumper wire between them or something. And
No.
I don't exactly understand why that would be the case with them, but I do know that from a kind of a Neptune DNA, that wouldn't be the case, right? That would not be the case that there would be a wireless connection. I do think that there is also an opportunity for the older Apex, right, to be able to, and again, this is no inside information. Anybody should be able to see this happening. There's a Wi-Fi chip in your G5 lights, right? There's a Bluetooth in the G5 lights. So conceivably, you should be able, without a module, to, from an Apex, give commands to a G5 that then controlled other things within the Mobius kind of network, right? The mesh network that is Mobius. So there might be a way, even with existing Apexes, that they push out a way to control products. But I did find it interesting, Mark, I don't know if you did or not, that the dose was also on 15% off sale.
Yep. No, we mentioned that when we started the segment. It's going back to sales, but you were thinking maybe the dose goes away and the Versa as replacements. Seems like everyone's had a hard time getting Versas. You just can't get them. Ecotech's talk about chip shortages and price increases because of the Wi-Fi chips. Would that be a bad move?
Well, I can't obviously speak for their supply chain. Maybe they fixed that. I know that there's more Versas coming online all the time. I see them popping up. Hitting demand, I don't know how close they are to doing that. I do know that it makes total sense not to have 2 companies under the same umbrella creating products that overlap that much. So it would not surprise me in the least, again, without any inside information, just basically common sense. The products that overlap, that if they can be controlled between the companies, the Vectra product, the Versa product, the Dose product, the Core product, those are overlapping products, right? 2 of them are return pumps and 2 of them are dosing pumps. So I would expect that you will see from one side or the other go away. I would guess that the Neptune side is probably going to stick more to controllers and things around controlling and software and all of that. And I would expect the Ecotech side to be building standalone products that integrate into the Neptune systems ecosystem. Hence, my bet is on the dose goes away. I mean, the product itself's long in the tooth anyway.
True, but it's wired.
But it works. And it's wired,
It works.
yes.
I was going to say, like, I have a lot of them out in the field. I have to replace the heads from time to time. And it just works. It requires Apex to run. I get it, but I have an Apex on my tank and clients' tanks anyway, so it's like no big deal for me. And I can get them. Like at any given time, I can get one of those things. I haven't had the out of stock issues that the Versas have seemed to have.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. I just think that I think they'll get that fixed, and there is no reason to have two dosing pumps that can be controllable in the ecosystem that is between the two companies. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Telegram says, agreed. Ecotech Marine's been working on that wireless integration for several years, the non-controller controller. That's a great marketing thing. And while mesh networking can work, I can tell you from the engineers that I spoke to, obviously at Neptune Systems and otherwise, it is difficult to do and to do properly. And it is not without issues in deciding who is ultimately in control. With the Apex in the world, you now can have one thing that for sure is in control. One would then say, well, yes, but that doesn't give you the failover and all of that. But it's one or the other. It's like, who's in control? Or I only have one person controlling. So there are issues with this. But,
all right. So last piece of speculation, Terrence. If going back to what you're saying about it doesn't make sense to have two companies under the same umbrella producing the same product, does the Sky go away and the Radion stays? You think they take it to that level?
Well, that's an interesting one, right? So with dosing pumps and return pumps move water. There's not really much. It's, it really is it's just a product that moves water. And in dosing pumps, it's a thing that doses a certain amount of liquid, right? And as long as they both kind of do the same thing in terms of how much a day or how much they're dosing, they're duplicative, right? But the lights between the Radion methodology and the Sky methodology and the way that they produce light and the look in the tank is different. And with that, I think people still may want to have a choice, unless the G5, which... sorry, I've still got this wrong screen on here, but there's another, let me show you this, since we're talking about it. Where is it? It's not that one. Oh, here we go. LuxDM, right, who helps with the AI stuff and everything. He evidently has some inside information. Evidently the G6, which I'm not going to ask you about because, I don't know, maybe you have some already or whatever, doesn't exactly look much different than the G5 and supposedly has exchangeable pucks in it. So that a G5 can be updated to a G6, supposedly doesn't have moonlights, but the key thing here is that they did not change it dramatically to have a footprint like the Sky, so it's still not going to have the shadowing coverage that the Sky, would be able to have, and that really is the difference. It'll have a little bit more shimmer, as we know, without, some sort of a diffuser on it. And the Sky will have a wider coverage and less shadowing just by the nature of the way more coverage of LEDs do. So there is a differentiation where pumps don't exist or pumps don't have differentiation.
The only way to know is to find out when it happens, and we'll cover it as soon as we know. And as soon as we see something, of course, you can tip us off. Go to the reefingreport.com right at the top. Let us know if you have info on it and you see something. If you see something, say something.
Yes, it's absolutely the case. But and we do get some great feedback from you guys. Thank you, all of you guys, some of you anonymous and others who have left us comments. It is right up there in the top of the page, right up there to tip us off. Oh, what happened? I guess I went back. Oh, tip us off is right there in the top, and let us know something you might find out in the reefing world. My guess, Mark, is in this regard for this Ecotech thing, and I'll ask you to make a call too. I'm going to say that the Apex system itself is not going to communicate directly into the ecosystem. I think it's going to probably communicate through one of the lights, at least in this revision, and they probably will take out the dose and start being able to connect directly to the Versa, and there will likely be a module that will allow you to connect into the whole ecosystem. That's what I'm going to call. What do you think?
I would be surprised unless the supply chain thing has been worked out. If they kill the dose in favor of the Vector, or maybe something new, Vector-ish, I would be really surprised about that one. I would be
so you say they're not going to kill the dose.
I don't think they could kill the dose.
Okay. So Mark says they're not going to kill the dose. And in terms of the Apex, do you think it will have direct integration into the Mobius system or not?
I think if it's not at the release, then it will be hardware capable and they're beta in it, and they'll release it in a firmware update down the line. So I think
Okay.
that's got to be in there. And I mean, the same with the AI stuff. Now that AI talks to Mobius, you can integrate those. Then it should be pretty easy for Neptune stuff to grab the AI stuff too, um, natively, so to speak.
Okay.
So, um, I mean, I'm really stumped. I was thinking a while ago that it's time for a new Apex, but then again, I'm like, what are they going to do that's going to make it such a drastic change from the old black Apex, the single bar,
Sure.
2009
What
model to
else
the
could you do?
2016?
Yes.
What else could you do? But then again, like that's their job. Like
Right.
wow us with something, come up with it. I don't think of those
So
things,
how
but
about
they do.
this? So now that they are under the umbrella of one company and integrated with bulk resupply, obviously now, and obviously when I was there, we did the special edition with Ryan of the small kind of Apex EL starter edition kind of thing. Do you think that there will be a new budget level Apex that'll come in under the Apex EL?
I think that I could see it. What I think where they would get a lot of pushback is if they did it as a BRS edition only type of thing, like you guys fiddled with at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they went that route, I would really be shocked.
So it's two questions. The first question is, do you think that one will come out that's going to come in under price of the Apex EL, say in a $300 price range? And the second question is, if they do you think it will be private label to BRS only, or do you think it'll be available to the general market? Take a stand, Mark.
No, I know. I'm thinking about it. Like there's a Hydros thing, which has an entry level. Reef Keeper is dead.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, Neptune and Ecotech are a premium brand. But then, I mean, so yeah, I think I could see one happening. I can see why they would do it. I think they would not do it as a BRS exclusive. If they did, then everyone who was talking about, oh, one company is controlling too much, all those people would come out of the woodwork. They get too much pushback on that. Sure, it'd probably still sell, but I don't think they would take that marketing stance. I would be very shocked if they did that.
Okay. So Mark says that he thinks there will be one that comes in to like the Apex Junior, right? That used to exist, right? But it will be available to the general public. So, and I've got people on here that says like, oh man, I don't like the orange. Oh gosh, never been a fan of the orange, So, all right. Well,
we got to give shout out to the Reef Keeper with the smart comment. I'm not dead. We were talking about the old Digital Aquatics Reef Keeper. So nice. You caught that Reef Keeper. I love it. Fantastic. Love the love that. Terrence, it's 8:07. This might be the longest stream ever with,
no, it's not.
I think it's okay. Well, I think we are close, if not more than the most people on the stream ever as well. So we're getting pushing records, which we like to do. Love the discussion back and forth.
Make sure everybody likes the video. So go mash that thumbs up, please. And make sure everybody who's watching, unless you hated me, unless you hated Mark, because nobody hates Mark, okay? There's a lot of people who hate me. But,
come on.
But unless you hated Mark, go subscribe. Hit the subscribe for us, get us up there in the numbers. We had a great stream. We enjoy all of you guys. We do need a sign-off, so if you guys want to put that in the comments too, what our sign-off should be, we'll take some feedback on that.
We're going to...
Oh, look, you have a love affair with Ben Johnson too, Mark, just to let you know.
Dude, Ben and I go way back. He's the man. Maybe working with him on an upcoming project too. So love it or hate it. We appreciate the watching. We appreciate feedback on all sides. Tell us what you think. Have a great rest of your Mother's Day weekend.
Yes.
And no one blew it for Terrence. I don't think anyone blew it on the F1, Terrence. You better sign off now and go watch your race.
And on top of that, if I dominated the conversation, I apologize for Mark. Because Mark's the one that needs to hop in more and interrupt me then, if that's the case, because I don't mind.
Dude, it's a balance. Come on, bro. It's all right. We're good. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. We'll catch you next week. Hit the mash off button. Roll that intro.
Yep.